Hello, everybody. We're back with another episode of The Lifestyle Sports. It's AI from the 210. There's been a lot that took place in the sports world, especially the NBA playoffs. The first thing I want to address is the Game 6 loss between the Lakers and the Suns. The Suns came out and killed, and LeBron James and the Lakers just didn't have enough. But LeBron James is still the greatest player of this generation. We must not forget. What would the NBA be like when LeBron James retires? There's a lot of people that loves to root for him as much as loves to hate. LeBron James has been one of my favorite players since I watched basketball, and I was sad to see the exit. But the Lakers will be back next year. Anthony Davis was injured. He tried to come back and hoop, but he had to leave the game early. It just wasn't enough. But the Lakers will definitely be rebuilding, and they'll be back next year. Can't wait to see. LeBron James will be back in the finals. LeBron James, I know he is not done. He needs that 5th ring. So shout out Bron. You know what I'm saying? You did work this season, but it just wasn't enough. You know what I'm saying? Them Suns was cold. Got to give credit to the Suns. The first game I want to get into is Game 7. The LA Clippers versus the Dallas Mavericks. The Clippers win 126-111. It was a great game from Luka. Shout out Luka, 46 points and 14 assists. I got to show my respect to Luka, one of the great young players. I feel like he's a future MVP candidate. He always comes to play. In this game, he tried his best. With those numbers, that's a real big game. You can't ask much from your star player. Shout out Luka. Porzingis chipped in, had 16 points and 11 rebounds. That's a decent game from Porzingis. So shout out Dallas. They did what they could. They had 5 players in double figures. So it was a cool little team effort, but it just wasn't enough. The Clippers came to play, and they turned it up when they needed to. We see Kawhi Leonard with 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. Man, cold game from Kawhi. He knew it was at stake. This Game 7, this ain't nothing new to him. So he was already ready. He knew what to expect out of this. Paul George had a decent game, 22 points, 10 assists. That's decent for Paul George. And Kawhi Leonard almost had that triple-double. That would have looked good in that Game 7 on the resume, but they still got the job done. Shout out to the Clippers. In the regular season, the Clippers were the NBA best three-point shooting team, and it proved as they played in this game, they made 23s. If you make 23s, you're going to be hard to stop. So I got to shout out to the Clippers for getting this job done. Once the start of the 4th came around, they were already in control. They just never looked back. The Dallas Mavericks had no answer. So now we'll wait to see the second round matchup between the Clippers and Utah. I think that's going to be a good series. They both have their teams. I like the way their teams are set up. Every player has a role, and it'll be nice to see them go at it. We're going to see who's going to get that one and how many games it go. That's going to be a good series. Shout out to the Clippers for getting that win in Game 7. And shout out to the former Spur, Kawhi Leonard. Shout out. The next game we're going to get into is Game 1 of the second round. The Nets versus the Bucks. The Nets were able to get this win, 115-107. KD did his part, 29 points and 10 rebounds. Great game from KD. Shout out KD. Kyrie Irving came in and did work. 25 points and 8 assists. Can't ask much more from Kyrie. Handled his business. James Harden, he got injured in the first quarter. I hate to see it, but shout out James. When we go to the Bucks side, Giannis did what he needed to do for the Bucks. 34 points and 11 rebounds. That's a good game from Giannis. Good game. Jrue Holiday, 17 points, 9 rebounds. Shout out Jrue Holiday. That was cool. But Harden got injured in the first quarter. That was terrible to see. I was really excited to see how Harden was going to play against the Bucks. To me, this was going to be one of the best series, if not the best series in the second round. I still got this. Well, it can go 7, but that injury to Harden, that was disastrous. But it didn't prove nothing against the Nets as they continued to win this game. Blake Griffin showed up with a great performance, 18 points and 14 rebounds. Good game from Blake. After the third quarter, it was pretty much over. The Nets, they just had control. And there was no coming back from the Bucks, even with no James Harden. It's already been announced that James Harden will be out for game 2. I hope he's not out for the series. I want to see that it's good basketball to see when all the stars are playing. So I want to see how they can work the ball around and do their thing when all three are in the game. And plus Harden is a great facilitator as well as a scorer. So Harden's been hooping. I hope he's not done for the series. But he will be out tonight for game 2. But we'll see how that affects them. We'll see if Giannis and them can bounce back, or if the Nets just gonna go ahead and take control with no Harden. If they can, man, the Nets are just that good. That'd be crazy to see. I can't wait to see tonight if the Bucks could even the series or if the Nets will go up 2-0. The next game we're gonna get into is game 1 of the second round. The Atlanta Hawks versus the Philadelphia 76ers. The Hawks upset the Sixers. They knocked off the Sixers in game 1, 128-124. Trae Young, like I said before, keep your eye on Trae Young. He is a phenomenal young player. In my opinion, he might be a future MVP. But when we look at this game, like I said, I'm just going to go back to this game. Trae Young went off. 35 points and 10 assists. You can't really ask more from Trae Young. Trae Young did his part, and they knocked off the Sixers in game 1. John Collins had 21 points. Good game from John Collins. You know what I'm saying? I see John Collins. He been doing this thing too. When we go to the Sixers side, Embiid's been hurt in the playoffs. This playoffs, he's been a bit, you know what I'm saying? He's not 100%. But in this game, he hooped. 39 points and 9 rebounds. Embiid almost got that 40 piece. So he was still out there. He was still out there killing with the injury. But I know he is injured though. Ben Simmons had a good game. 17 points, 7 for 7 from the field, and 10 assists. That's a pretty good game from Ben Simmons. But as I mentioned, Trae Young and the Hawks, they just smelled blood. They went ahead and got the upset. The game was just never close. And also the Hawks, they shot pretty well from 3. They made 23s. If you make 23s in the game, I mean, you got the advantage. If you and your whole team could just hit, and y'all make 20, that's awesome. So shout out to Trae Young and the Hawks. Like I say, if Trae Young could beat the Hawks, if Trae Young and the Hawks can beat the Sixers in this series, I'm calling it. Trae Young is the next Steph Curry if they could beat the Sixers. Come on, like they're obviously the underdog, and if Trae Young can make the Eastern Conference Finals in his first playoff debut, I'm calling it. He's the next Steph Curry. So I look forward to this series. The playoffs have been real. They've been real fun to watch. There's been a lot of great games, a lot of great basketball. Shout out Trae Young. I see you coming alive. I'm rooting for you. Let's see if you can take down them Sixers and prove everybody wrong. Let's get it. And I also want to mention that we see Julio Jones have been traded to the Tennessee Titans. That's a pretty decent trade for the Titans. They now have him paired with A.J. Brown, with Ryan Tannehill. That's not a bad team. And when we look at the Atlanta Falcons, we can at least say they got Julio out of the NFC, so they don't have to really worry about him playoff time. There's nothing they really got to worry about when it comes to Julio unless they see him in the Super Bowl. So shout out to both sides. I feel like the Titans won this trade because Julio's still in his prime, and I feel like he got on a pretty good team with Reese. They've been good recently. So we definitely got to speak more about that, and we got to keep an eye on that. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of The Lifestyle Sports. It's AI from the 210. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, like. Follow on IG at The Lifestyle Sports, at Allen Iverson, ALAN Iverson. Till next time.